Rain hammered the windshield in violent sheets, blurring the world into streaks of silver and shadow, but Marcus Hale didn't notice. His hands were slick with blood, her blood, still warm on his palms, as he pressed them against Olivia's torn wrist restraints. The paramedics hadn't arrived. The sirens were still distant, and Olivia's breath was slipping away in shallow, broken gasps on the cold concrete of the abandoned pier. "Stay with me," he whispered, voice shaking, forehead pressed to hers. "Please, God, stay with me." Her eyelids fluttered. A faint, fractured smile ghosted across her lips. "It's my fault," she breathed. "No," Marcus choked, gathering her closer as the wind howled like a warning. "Don't you dare say that." Her body sagged. The sirens finally grew louder. But for Marcus Hale, time had already split in two, the life he had before this moment, and the ruin after it. The first thing Detective Lauren Whitaker noticed was the coffee mug, its steam faint, fragile, slipping into the cold morning air of Olivia Mercer's apartment. It sat on the kitchen island as if someone had lifted it only minutes before he arrived. And yet Olivia had not been seen for 14 hours. Her apartment in Arlington was unsettlingly neat, almost staged. A laptop left open on a blank screen. A wool coat draped over the back of the chair. Keys still on the hook. Nothing broken. Nothing stolen. Nothing that suggested struggle. It was the absence of chaos that made Marcus Hale's breath unsteady. The general stood in the doorway, rigid in his civilian coat, jaw clenched as though holding back a tremor. A 4-star general could face hearings, foreign threats, political storms, but not this. Not the quiet stillness of a woman gone without a trace. Detective Whitaker cleared his throat. "You reported her missing at 3:16 a.m. How long had she been gone when you called?" Marcus didn't answer immediately. His eyes drifted across the room, landing on details Whitaker could not parse. Memories embedded in the soft gray furniture. The bookshelf. The simple candle Olivia always lit after long days at the Pentagon. Marcus's voice, when it came, was low. "She didn't respond to my messages. Or my calls. That's not like her." Whitaker raised a brow. "So you two were close." A pause. "Professionally," Marcus lied. Whitaker didn't bother to hide the disbelief in his eyes. Still, the detective continued taking notes, each scratch of his pen slicing through the silence. Marcus turned away, walking toward the balcony. Through the glass doors, he could see the blurred lights of D.C. across the river, cold, indifferent, glittering like 1,000 watching eyes. Olivia had always said the city felt that way, beautiful from afar, suffocating up close. He hadn't slept, he hadn't eaten, and he hadn't told anyone the truth. Not about the fight 2 days ago, not about Olivia's fear that someone was following her. Not about the way she whispered, "Marcus, something's wrong. I think they know." His phone vibrated, sharp, jarring. A Pentagon-secured alert. Only one word appeared. Classified file received. Origin, O. Mercer. Marcus froze. Whitaker caught the shift in his expression. "Problem, General?" Marcus ignored him. He stepped into the living room and opened the encrypted message. A single file sat attached. Hale Confidential Notes, O.M. His pulse hammered as he tapped it open. Olivia's writing filled the screen. Clinical, precise, yet tinged with fear. Marcus Hale is involved more deeply than he admits. Someone is watching us. It isn't just about the affair. If anything happens to me, this should explain why. Marcus's vision dimmed. He felt the room tilt, felt the blood drain from his face. The detective noticed. "What is that?" Whitaker asked sharply. Marcus closed the phone with a snap. "Nothing relevant." Whitaker stepped closer. "General Hale, if there's information connected to her disappearance..." But Marcus couldn't hear him anymore. All he could hear was Olivia's voice in his mind. Those soft, late-night whispers when she would lay her head on his shoulder, confessing her doubts about the Pentagon's internal politics, the pressure of reviewing high-risk psychological files, the shadows she felt creeping around her life, and his own voice, calm and dismissive. "You're tired, Olivia. You overthink things." He had brushed aside her fears. He had left her alone that night, and now she was gone. The detective's radio crackled, snapping both men back to the present. A voice reported from the hallway. "We've got something. Basement camera footage. Timestamp 2:07 a.m. Whitaker turned to Marcus. "You should see this." They moved to the small security office downstairs. A screen flickered to life. The grainy footage showed the apartment building's basement exit. A figure appeared. A woman. Alone. Head down. Walking quickly. She didn't look kidnapped. She looked resigned. But the most chilling detail was what she carried. A slim black folder tucked against her chest. Marcus inhaled sharply. "That's her." "Where was she going?" Whitaker asked. Marcus didn't answer, because he recognized that folder. He had seen it once, years before. A restricted access file from a covert operation that had gone catastrophically wrong, an operation he had buried, shielded, protected at all costs. Why did Olivia have it? How much had she discovered? The footage ended abruptly. Olivia disappeared into the darkness beyond the camera's reach. Whitaker exhaled. "General Hale, I'm beginning to think your relationship with Ms. Mercer is more complicated than you're admitting." Marcus stared at the screen long after it went black, because for the first time he understood something with icy clarity. Olivia didn't just vanish. She ran. Not from him, not from guilt, but from whatever secret she had uncovered, and whatever terrifying force didn't want her alive to reveal it. He whispered her name, barely audible. "Olivia." Outside, the wind howled through the vents. Cold, sharp, merciless. The city was wide awake. And so was the truth. The morning after Olivia's disappearance bled into a bleak, metallic afternoon, the kind that pressed heavily against the skin like a storm waiting to crack. Marcus Hale returned to her apartment alone. The detectives had left hours earlier, sealing the place with yellow tape, but they granted him temporary access due to his rank, and because he insisted with a quiet, cold authority no one dared question. He stepped inside, closing the door behind him with a soft click. Silence swallowed him whole. Olivia's presence lingered in particles, the faint scent of her jasmine lotion, the lingering warmth of her sweater still hanging over a dining chair, the subtle disorder of her books stacked in uneven piles on the floor. Everything felt touched by her, shaped by her, almost alive, yet she was nowhere. Marcus moved slowly through the apartment, like wading through the memory of a life he barely allowed himself to live. His fingers brushed the spine of a book on her nightstand. American Mind Under Pressure. The last chapter was dog-eared. He remembered her reading it on his couch while he skimmed briefings, her feet tucked under her voice occasionally drifting into a soft commentary about how stress rewires the human brain. "You'd know that better than anyone," he had once joked. She didn't smile. She rarely did lately. He walked back into the kitchen, staring again at the half-warm mug. The smallness of it hurt. Olivia always drank slowly, savoring warmth like she feared it would be stolen from her. Perhaps it already had been. Marcus sat down, elbows on the cold marble countertop, and opened his phone. The secret file still burned on the screen, every line a blade. If anything happens to me, this should explain why. He forced himself to reread it, to confront each line with brutal honesty. She wrote about surveillance, strange men outside her building, unauthorized access attempts on her Pentagon terminal. And then there were the final notes, cryptic phrases she hadn't had time to expand. Hale doesn't know everything about Operation Ember. There were survivors, Someone cleaned the records. The truth is a noose. Marcus's throat tightened. Operation Ember, a covert mission from years ago, classified so deeply that even the Senate Oversight Committee was only given a sanitized version. It was supposed to stay buried. No loose ends, no leaks. He himself had ordered the redactions. Why would Olivia look into it? Who pointed her there? And why now? A sudden thought struck him, cold and sharp. The black folder she carried in the footage. Not a copy, not a digital extract, the original. But there were only two originals, one locked in the Pentagon archive, and the other. Marcus stood abruptly. The other had been in his private safe. His pulse spiked. He crossed the room quickly, entering Olivia's bedroom. He scanned the space, eyes narrowing. That night, 2 nights before she vanished, they had argued. She had accused him of hiding something larger than their affair. He had brushed her off, exhausted, irritated, unwilling to dig up old ghosts. "I saw your name on a document that doesn't match the official report, Marcus," she had said, voice trembling not with anger, but fear. "I know what classified markers look like. Something's missing." He had ended the argument by leaving, slamming the door harder than he intended. And now, standing in her empty bedroom, he wished he had stayed. Explained. Trusted her. He approached her desk. Papers were scattered, organized chaos, typical of Olivia's mind when she was unraveling a mystery. Among them lay a yellow sticky note, the ink smudged but readable. "Check the echoes. People lie. Metadata doesn't." Marcus frowned. It sounded like something she would say about digital forensics, how timestamps, invisible edits, and buried file trails often revealed what the human eye couldn't. He powered on her laptop, password protected, of course. He typed her usual passcodes, failed. He tried her Pentagon variation, failed again. He exhaled, closing his eyes. What would she choose when she didn't want him to look? He typed Emberfall. The screen unlocked. His heart dropped. The desktop was nearly empty except for one encrypted folder labeled Echoes. He clicked it. Inside were dozens of video files, short, grainy clips, surveillance footage from around her building, street corners, cafes she frequented, even the Pentagon parking structure, all of them taken without her knowledge. Marcus swallowed hard. Someone had been tracking her meticulously, obsessively. This wasn't an accidental leak or casual monitoring. This was systematic. He opened the newest file. Timestamp, 2 hours before she disappeared. A shaky camera followed Olivia as she hurried down a dim sidewalk, clutching the black folder tight to her chest. She kept looking over her shoulder, breathless, terrified. Headlights flashed behind her. She ducked into an alley. The video cut out. Marcus felt a chill crawl up his spine. He clicked another file, this one audio only. Olivia's voice filled the room, quiet, strained. "Marcus, I don't know who else to trust. If you're hearing this, I'm sorry. I didn't want it to be you. But they're not after you. They're after what you know. And they think I'm the weak link." The message ended abruptly. No explanation, no closure, just fear. Marcus gripped the sides of the desk, knuckles white. Someone in the Pentagon wanted the Ember truth dead. Someone thought Olivia had it. And someone knew Marcus was the only person she might run to. He straightened slowly, a cold calm settling over him, his military instincts, long buried under layers of secrecy and guilt, ignited with dangerous clarity. If Olivia was still alive, she was running out of time, and if the people behind this wanted war, they had just chosen the wrong general. Marcus closed the laptop, his jaw set. He would find her, no matter who he had to destroy to do it. The security office beneath Olivia's apartment building smelled faintly of dust, old coffee, and the sterile hum of machinery that had outlived its usefulness. Marcus stood beside Detective Whitaker as a technician rewound the grainy basement footage again, frame by agonizing frame. They had watched the same 30 seconds at least 20 times. 2:07 a.m., Olivia emerging from the stairwell, the black folder clutched to her chest, her shoulders tight, chin tucked, steps urgent but not panicked. Then she vanished into the dark edge of the camera's range. Whitaker exhaled through his nose, arms crossed. Doesn't look like abduction. Looks voluntary. Marcus didn't look away from the screen. Fear can make anything look voluntary. The detective shot him a side glance. You keep saying she was frightened, but you didn't tell me what she was frightened of. Marcus didn't answer. He couldn't. Not without opening doors he had spent years locking from the inside. Whitaker snapped his fingers at the technician. Can you scrub back 5 seconds? Enhance right side. The technician complied. The footage rewound, replayed, and zoomed into the far corner, beyond where Olivia vanished. Blurry, shadowed, barely distinguishable. But something was there. A shape. No. Movement. A figure leaning just outside the camera's reach. Not stepping forward, not chasing, just waiting, watching. Whitaker leaned in. What the hell is that? Marcus felt his stomach twist, not from the figure itself, but from what it implied. Someone knew where the camera ends, he said quietly. Someone familiar with surveillance angles. That's not public knowledge, Whitaker muttered. Building maintenance has the schematics, but this isn't a maintenance worker, Marcus said. Whitaker looked at him for a long moment. What are you not telling me, General? Marcus kept his eyes fixed on the screen. He had spent decades mastering the art of omission, of silence, of surviving Washington by saying less than enough. Yet with Olivia missing, every lie, every classified restraint felt like betrayal. She thought she was being followed, Marcus said finally. She told me a week ago. I dismissed it. Whitaker's jaw tightened. Followed by who? She didn't know. But Marcus had a terrifying guess. The detective straightened. I need names, or motives, or something, anything, that could make a Pentagon analyst disappear with a classified folder. Marcus inhaled, steadying himself. He could not reveal Operation Ember. Not fully. Even partial disclosure could end. Careers, trigger hearings, unleash political fallout. But he could give Whitaker a direction. Look into anyone connected to off-books intelligence units stationed in D.C. 8 years ago. Small teams with no clear reporting structure. Whitaker blinked slowly. That's vague. Borderline useless. It's what I can give you. Whitaker sighed, rubbing his temples. Fine. I'll see what turns up. But if I find out you're withholding something that puts her life at risk, Marcus finished for him. You'll come for me first. Understood. Their eyes locked for a tense moment. Then Whitaker left to pursue leads, leaving Marcus alone with the flickering footage. The figure in the shadows haunted him, not moving, not acting, just waiting for Olivia to step into the darkness. He needed fresh air, answers, a direction. Instead, his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He hesitated, answered. At first, he heard only wind, then a voice, a woman's voice, whispered through the static. Marcus? His heart seized. Olivia? Faint, trembling, rushed. Don't try to find me. Where are you? Talk to me. You can't fix this. It's bigger than you think. Olivia, listen. No, you listen. Her breath hitched, as if she was running. They think I have the original. I don't. I never did. Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. The folder was a diversion, she whispered. I needed them to follow the wrong trail. He gripped the phone harder. Who's following you? But the line splintered again, static roaring, then her voice breaking. I didn't want to involve you. I'm sorry. A sharp sound cut through the call. Metal impact. Then, a man's voice. Cold. Controlled. Miss Mercer can't talk right now. Marcus's entire body went still. Who is this? He demanded. A pause. A breath. A soft chuckle. I'd recommend you stop digging, General, for your sake and hers. Then the line disconnected. Marcus stood motionless, phone in his hand, the world narrowing to a single, violent point of realization. Olivia was alive, but not safe. And the people holding her, or chasing her, had just issued him a warning. Not out of courtesy, but confidence. They believed Marcus Hale, the man with medals, authority, and decades of classified access, was powerless. He slipped the phone into his coat and walked out of the building without another word. Outside, the sky hung low, gray, suffocating. DC's winter wind whipped down the street, sharp as accusation. He began walking with purpose. There were places he swore he'd never return to, old contacts, buried networks, unofficial channels where rules bent and loyalties were purchased in shadows. But Olivia was out there, running, hunted, alone. He whispered to the wind, to the woman he failed to protect, I'm coming for you. For the first time in years, Marcus Hale wasn't acting as a general. He was acting as a man with nothing left to lose. The storm hit Washington by mid-afternoon, an icy rain that blurred the skyline and washed the city's colors into a muted palette of gray and steel. Marcus Hale walked through it without an umbrella, the cold lashing at his face, soaking through the collar of his coat. The sting kept him alert, anchored, focused. He was heading toward a place he promised himself he would never revisit. A narrow townhouse in Foggy Bottom. From the outside, it looked like any restored historic home, but inside lived one of the few men who knew the truth about Operation Ember. A ghost in DC's intelligence circles. A man who'd vanished from official rosters, but never from the city's bloodstream. Elias Ward. Marcus knocked once, sharply. No answer. He knocked again, harder. A bolt slid. A chain rattled. Then the door opened halfway. Elias stood there in a wool sweater, hair longer than Marcus remembered, eyes sharp behind wire-rimmed glasses. He studied Marcus for a beat, long enough to communicate he knew far more than appearances suggested. You're drenched, Elias said. That's unlike you. We need to talk. That, Elias replied, is very much like you. He stepped aside. Inside, the townhouse smelled of old wood and something herbal. Tea or incense, Marcus couldn't tell. Papers littered the dining table in organized chaos, and a laptop hummed quietly amidst a spread of open files. Elias poured 2 cups of coffee without asking. So, he said, sliding a mug across, how badly did things fall apart? Marcus didn't sit. Olivia Mercer's missing. Elias's expression shifted, barely, but enough. And you're here, Elias added softly, which means it's not simply a romantic crisis. Marcus clenched his jaw. Elias always saw the subtext, the shadows beneath the words. She called me, Marcus said. Sounded scared. Said she never had the original Ember file. Someone's chasing her because they think she does. Elias leaned back in his chair. And do they think she got it from you? Maybe. Marcus hesitated. There's more. Someone else got on the line. A man. What did he say? Not much, but he was confident. Too confident. Elias rubbed his chin. You know what that means. Marcus nodded. He's not a freelancer, not a rogue agent. Exactly, Elias said. Someone with institutional protection. Someone who doesn't fear consequences because there won't be any. Marcus finally sat, leaning forward. Who's running surveillance units in D.C. right now? Off books. No oversight. Elias cracked a small, humorless smile. Still asking the wrong questions. What's the right one? Elias stood, walked to a drawer, and pulled out a thin envelope. He dropped it in front of Marcus. Ask, Elias said. Who would benefit if you were implicated? Marcus didn't move. Implicate me in what? Elias didn't blink. Whatever Operation Ember buried. A chill ran through Marcus. Not from the storm outside, but from memory. The desert. The mission that spiraled. The civilian casualties. The classified edits afterward. The guilt Marcus carried in silence. He opened the envelope. Inside was a single photograph. A man standing beside a black SUV captured in a blurry nighttime shot. He wore a dark coat, head down, but the face, partially turned toward the camera, was unmistakable. Marcus's breath left him. Is that... Yes, Elias said. Cole Maddox. Marcus stared, stunned. But he's dead. Officially, Elias replied. Unofficially. Men like Maddox don't die. They get repurposed. Maddox, a former counterintelligence officer with a reputation for vanishing people who ask the wrong questions. Cold, methodical, brilliant in ways that terrified even seasoned operatives. What does Maddox want with Olivia? Marcus asked, feeling a weight grind into his ribs. Elias crossed his arms. Maybe he thinks she found something. Maybe she actually did. She didn't have the original file. Elias raised a brow. Did you? Marcus didn't answer. He didn't need to. Elias sighed. Then they believe she knows where you keep it. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment, just long enough to steady himself. The Ember file in his private safe wasn't just any document. It contained more than redacted lines and covert failures. It contained names, coordinates, decisions made in the dark. If anyone got to Olivia first, they wouldn't question her to retrieve the file. They'd eliminate her to eliminate the loose end. Marcus stood abruptly. Where was this taken? He demanded, holding the photograph. Outside a warehouse on Water Street, Elias replied. He's been spotted there twice this month. Why not tell me sooner? I wasn't sure it connected to you, Elias said. Now I am. Marcus moved toward the door. Elias's voice stopped him. Marcus. He turned. Elias's gaze hardened, losing its usual academic softness. If Maddox is involved, this isn't a rescue mission. It's a manhunt, and you're not the hunter. Marcus stepped closer until he stood inches from Elias. I've faced wars you only read about, he said quietly. I'm not afraid of Cole Maddox. You should be, Elias replied, because Maddox doesn't go after soldiers. Elias tapped the photo. He goes after weaknesses. Marcus stilled. And right now, Olivia Mercer is yours. The silence that followed was suffocating. Marcus pocketed the photograph, opened the door, and stepped back into the storm. The cold hit him like a slap, but he welcomed it. Because if Maddox wanted to weaponize Marcus's weaknesses, then Marcus would turn his weakness into a war he intended to win. Night settled over Water Street like a bruise, dark, swollen, and humming with a quiet violence. The Potomac lapped against the old wharf pilings behind the abandoned warehouse, each slap of water echoing through the thin winter air. The building rose out of the fog in jagged silhouette, its rusted metal siding vibrating under the wind. A place forgotten. A place ideal for shadows. Marcus Hale approached from the riverside path, footsteps silent on the slick pavement. His coat was soaked again, but he hardly noticed. His mind churned with a sharp, disciplined fury, one he had not felt since the early days of his service. The photograph of Cole Maddox burned in his pocket, a constant reminder of what waited inside. He checked the time. 11:42 p.m. If Olivia was alive, She was running out of hours, not days. He reached the warehouse's side door and paused. A single security camera pointed outward, almost lazy in its angle. Its red indicator light blinked steadily, almost too steadily. Someone wanted him to see it. He moved under the camera's blind spot, slipping a small signal jammer from his coat. The device buzzed softly, and the light on the camera flickered, then died. Marcus eased the door open. Inside was darkness layered over deeper darkness. The warehouse smelled of cold metal, dust, and faint engine oil. His boots echoed across concrete, each step a quiet warning to anyone listening. But there were no voices, no footsteps, no shifting shapes in the shadows. Still, Marcus felt watched. Shapes emerged as his eyes adjusted. Racks of unused pallets, broken machinery, old military shipping crates marked with faded stencils. He moved deeper. A faint glow emanated from a smaller room up ahead. The door cracked open as if someone had left in a hurry. Marcus approached, senses honed, breath held. He pushed the door fully open. A small office, a desk, a laptop still running, and on the corkboard pinned above it, photographs of Olivia. Different angles, different days, candid shots, surveillance. And in the center, a high-resolution image of her leaving the Pentagon parking garage, her face half-turned, eyes wary, the black folder visible against her coat. Marcus stepped closer. Paper notes were tacked around the photos, handwritten in blocky, precise letters. Target access, Pentagon. Behavioral analysis, unit compromised, POS. Objective, retrieve original document if non-compliant, terminate. He swallowed hard. The word terminate scraped inside his chest like glass. Someone had planned her erasure long before she knew she was in danger. His fingers shook only once, briefly, before his training reasserted itself. He searched the desk. A burner phone, a torn piece of paper, coordinates scribbled quickly, a timestamp for the next morning. 8 Stunden Quack. Exchange. Marcus frowned. Exchange what? Olivia? The file? Information? He pocketed the burner phone and scanned the laptop screen. It displayed metadata logs, recently accessed files, Pentagon IDs, surveillance archives, partial transcripts, and then a name that hit Marcus like a hammer. Hale Ember 01. Raw. The original metadata file, digitized, time-stamped years ago, unedited, untouched since the mission. His blood ran cold. Someone inside the warehouse had pulled the raw data. Someone wanted leverage. Someone wanted Marcus to fall. He clicked the file open, and the screen abruptly went black. He didn't touch anything. He didn't move. Someone else had killed the feed remotely. A quiet click sounded behind him. Marcus spun. A man stood in the doorway. Tall, broad-shouldered, face calm, expressionless, hair thinly cropped to the scalp. Cole Maddox, gray eyes, unmoving. The kind that had stared down 100 bodies and never blinked. Marcus's pulse hardened into steel. Maddox! The man inclined his head a fraction. General. His voice wasn't threatening. It didn't need to be. Cold confidence dripped from each syllable. I assume you've been enjoying my office. Marcus stepped forward. Where is she? Maddox didn't answer. Instead, he surveyed the room, noting everything Marcus had touched. You were always predictable, Maddox said finally. I knew you'd come here. Marcus's jaw tightened. Where is Olivia? A pause, long enough for meaning. Then, she's alive. Marcus exhaled shakily, but Maddox's next words sliced through that breath. For now. Marcus took another step, ready to close the distance between them. Maddox drew a small control device from his pocket and pressed a button. A metallic clang shook the warehouse. The main door had locked. Then another clang. The side exit. The emergency hatch. They were alone in a sealed building. Maddox smiled faintly. You were never meant to retire from the truth, Marcus. Operation Ember didn't die. It evolved. And you, he gestured toward Marcus with cold amusement, are the only loose end left. I'm not the one who ran an off-book kill team, Marcus snapped. You're cleaning up your own ghosts. Maddox's eyes hardened. My ghosts don't matter. Yours do. He pointed toward the periphery of the office, where a projector flickered to life. A video played. A woman, Olivia, blindfolded, tied to a chair, breathing hard, shoulders trembling. A hand, not visible, grabbed her chin. Marcus's chest cracked open. He lunged. Maddox fired a warning shot into the ceiling, the sound thundering through the warehouse. Try that again, Maddox said evenly, and the next bullet goes into her. Marcus froze. Maddox lowered the gun slowly. Tomorrow at 8, you will bring me the original Ember file. Personally. Alone. If you don't... The screen zoomed closer to Olivia's face, streaked with tears. She dies. Marcus's voice was a blade. If you touch her... Maddox's smile was cool. The only person who can save her is you. But you'll have to choose which truth to betray. Maddox turned and walked out, the door unlocking only long enough for him to slip away. Marcus stood there, breath shaking, fists clenched, heart breaking in his chest with a slow, deliberate fracture. The warehouse fell silent. Only Olivia's image lingered on the screen, her voice, recorded, barely audible beneath static. Marcus, don't come for me. But he would, no matter the cost, because for the first time in his life, Marcus Hale wasn't choosing between duty and desire. He was choosing who he refused to lose. The night wore thin by the time Marcus reached his townhouse in McLean, a place too large for one man, too quiet for a man with his ghosts. The storm had followed him across the river, slamming icy rain against the windows. He ignored the wet coat clinging to his shoulders, the ache in his bones, the raw scrape of exhaustion across his nerves. He locked the door behind him. Then he headed straight for the study. The lights flicked on with a soft hum. The room smelled of old leather and cedar, his refuge once. Books lined the shelves in rigid order, military histories and political theories standing in silent judgment. He moved toward the wall behind the large framed map of the Cobble Mountain region. He lifted it carefully. Behind it, a steel safe built directly into the structure. His safe. The one only two people on Earth knew existed, Marcus himself and Olivia. Not because he told her, but because she had pieced him together like a puzzle made of scars and brittle silences. He placed his palm on the biometric panel. Green light. He typed the secondary code. He entered the third sequence, the one he swore he'd never use again. The safe clicked open with a dull, heavy sound, as if resenting being disturbed. Inside lay a small fireproof box. Black. Unmarked. Unassuming to anyone who didn't know the weight of the world it held. Marcus lifted the box carefully. His reflection warped across its surface. Tired eyes, jaw set in a line carved from guilt. He carried it to the desk and opened it. Inside, a flash drive, a physical folder, a sealed envelope, and a single photograph that slid upward as if eager to remind him why he never slept well. The photograph showed a dusty Afghan courtyard, a team of operatives, Marcus among them, and 5 civilians not supposed to be there, not supposed to witness what happened next. He turned the photo face down. The file labeled Ember stared back at him. It was smaller than it looked in his nightmares, and yet it contained decisions that could end careers, destabilize alliances, and send good men into courtrooms under bright, merciless lights. Most damning of all, it contained proof of who ordered the redaction. Him. Marcus sank into the chair, letting the truth settle like iron inside him. Maddox wanted this file, wanted leverage, wanted power. But why did Olivia get dragged into the fallout? He set the folder aside and opened the envelope. Inside were Olivia's handwriting notes, notes she had made years ago, during her early days at the Pentagon when she was still bright-eyed, idealistic, unbruised by bureaucracy. He unfolded one. Marcus keeps everything locked away. Not just the documents, but the guilt too. I don't know what Ember is, but he carries it like a wound. I wish he trusted me enough to tell me. He closed his eyes. Her words hit him harder than Maddox's threats. She had seen him, more clearly than he ever let himself be seen. Another page slipped free, a more recent note, written only months ago. Something about the Ember file isn't consistent. Multiple metadata edits, versioning anomalies. Someone tampered with the raw logs. Not Marcus, someone else. That stopped him cold. Someone tampered with the logs? Someone besides him? He leaned forward, eyes narrowing at the flash drive. He connected it to his laptop, an air-gapped machine he never used for anything except highly classified review. The drive opened. Inside, logs Olivia extracted, raw metadata, cross-referencing reports, thousands of lines of digital footprints. Marcus scrolled. There, stamped in red, unauthorized edit, 02:14 a.m., access ID, CMX01CMX, Cole Maddox. Marcus's breath caught. My God, Olivia wasn't the weakness Maddox was exploiting. She was the threat Maddox was trying to erase. She had found evidence that Maddox, not Marcus, altered the Ember record, altered the civilian casualty count, altered the chain of command. It wasn't Marcus who buried truth. It was Maddox who rewrote it. And Olivia discovered it. Marcus stood so fast the chair scraped across the hardwood. His chest tightened. She hadn't been running because of Marcus. She hadn't been afraid of Marcus's secrets. She had been afraid of Maddox's. And she tried to shield Marcus from the fallout, thinking he would be implicated. The realization cut deeper than any battlefield wound. He grabbed his phone and dialed Elias. The call connected immediately. I assume you found the file, Elias said, voice calm, but tense beneath the veneer. Maddox altered the Ember logs, Marcus said. He made himself the ghost behind the record. Olivia found it. A long silence. Then Elias whispered, Jesus Christ. He used my name, my access trail. He made it look like my cover-up. Marcus, and now he wants the file before I can expose him. Elias exhaled slowly. Then the exchange tomorrow morning isn't an exchange. Marcus nodded grimly. It's a kill zone. For you, Elias confirmed, and for Olivia. Marcus closed the safe slowly, locking the past back into steel, but this time with intention, not fear. He slid the Ember file into a sealed tactical pouch and secured it inside his coat, not to give it to Maddox, but to use it. He walked to the window. The rain had slowed, leaving the night washed clean but sharp, like a blade rinsed before the next cut. Over the quiet hiss of wet pavement, he whispered to himself, they underestimated her. A beat, and they underestimated me. He turned, heading toward the door with the single-minded determination of a man who had chosen his war. Because now he knew the truth. Olivia wasn't a mistress caught in political fallout. She wasn't collateral damage. She wasn't a loose end. She was the only person who ever dared pull the thread. And Marcus Hale would burn down the entire operation, Maddox included, before he let them cut that thread from the world. Morning crept into Washington like a reluctant confession, dim and cold, leaking through the mist that clung to the Potomac. The city looked half-formed, its monuments ghostly outlines behind the fog. Marcus Hale stood at the riverfront, the tactical pouch beneath his coat pressing against his ribs like a heartbeat he didn't trust anymore. 8 o'clock a.m. The time Cole Maddox had chosen. The time Olivia would die if Marcus faltered. But Marcus wasn't here to hand over the Ember file. He was here to force a fracture, to expose Maddox, to save Olivia, to end what should have died years ago. A gull cried overhead as he approached the end of the pier, an old cargo lane long abandoned by commercial vessels, perfect for clandestine exchanges. A black SUV sat parked at the far edge, windows tinted, engine running with a low, predatory hum. Marcus stopped 5 feet away. The driver's door opened. Cole Maddox stepped out as if he were walking into a boardroom, not a battlefield. His tailored coat barely moved in the cold wind. His expression stayed perfectly neutral, except for a faint, chilling smile. "Morning, General," Maddox said. "I wasn't sure you'd come." Marcus's voice was a controlled blade. "Where is she?" Maddox nodded at the SUV. "Safe, for the moment." "For the moment," Marcus echoed, loathing how calmly Maddox said it, as if a human life were simply an adjustable variable. "You brought the file?" Maddox asked. Marcus didn't answer. He didn't need to. The tension in his posture told Maddox everything. Maddox's smile sharpened. "Good. Bring it here." Marcus didn't move. His eyes stayed locked on Maddox. "You altered the Ember logs," Marcus said quietly. Maddox's face didn't change, but his shoulders stiffened almost imperceptibly. A tiny tell, but Marcus caught it. "You think so?" Maddox replied lightly. "I know so. Olivia found the metadata. She traced the unauthorized edits. She followed your trail." Maddox clicked his tongue once, in annoyance or admiration. It was hard to tell. "Smart girl, too smart." "You targeted her because you couldn't erase me without leaving questions," Marcus said, stepping closer. "So you went for the person who could expose the truth." Maddox's eyes darkened. "She was a threat. She still is." Marcus's muscles tightened. "She's a civilian analyst." "And you think that matters?" Maddox asked, amused. "Truth doesn't care about innocence. Truth burns everything it touches." For a fraction of a second, Marcus imagined his hands around Maddox's throat. But violence would only get Olivia killed faster. "You won't walk away with that file," Marcus said. Maddox gave a small laugh. "I already did. Years ago." Marcus shook his head. "You forged edits, but you don't have the original." Maddox took a slow step forward. "But you do. And you're predictable. You care. That's why I sent the picture. That's why you're here. With the file." Marcus's jaw locked. Maddox continued. "Love makes men weak. Attachments make them pliable. You should have learned that by now." Marcus's breath hitched, barely, but Maddox saw it. The bastard enjoyed it. "Let me see her," Marcus said through his teeth. Maddox nodded. "As you wish." He tapped the SUV's rear window twice. The glass tinted down electronically, revealing the back seat. Olivia, tied, blindfolded, alive. Marcus's knees almost buckled. Her head was bowed, her breathing shallow. A bruise bloomed across her cheek. Her wrists were bound in front of her, but loosely, as if Maddox wanted her alive, just barely. "Olivia," Marcus whispered. She didn't respond, but her shoulders trembled. She'd heard him. Something inside Marcus hardened into iron. Maddox gestured lazily toward the SUV. "She'll be released once I have the file." "Liar," Marcus said. Maddox shrugged. "Possibly, but what choice do you have?" Marcus stepped closer until they were only a foot apart. "Here's the truth. You don't want the file for leverage. You want it destroyed. Because the original shows your edits, your decisions, your kill orders. And Maddox asked. "No one will believe you over me." Marcus leaned in. "They won't have to. Metadata doesn't lie." Maddox's smile faded. A hairline crack. Marcus pushed harder. "You underestimated her. That was your mistake." Maddox's eyes flicked toward the SUV. Just a fraction, but enough. Marcus moved. Not toward Maddox, but toward Olivia. Maddox reached for his weapon. But Elias Ward stepped from behind a rusted shipping crate, silenced pistol aimed squarely at Maddox's head. "Maddox," Elias said calmly, "you might want to rethink your morning plans." Maddox stiffened, fury flashing across his face. "Ward." "Hello, Cole," Elias replied. "Still solving problems with bullets?" Marcus reached the SUV door, opened it, and pulled the blindfold from Olivia's face. Her eyes blinked rapidly, adjusting to the light. When she finally saw him, really saw him, something inside her shattered. "Marcus," she whispered, voice raw. "I'm here," he murmured, untying her wrists. "I'm getting you out." Maddox's voice cut through the air. "You two are adorable, truly, but none of you are leaving this pier." Elias cocked his head. "Funny. I was about to say the same to you." Suddenly, a red laser dot appeared on Elias's chest, then another. Marcus's hand froze. Snipers. Maddox smiled again, slow and cruel. "Did you think I came alone? You should know better. I learned from the best." Marcus's blood ran ice cold as Maddox lifted his chin, signaling his unseen men. "Step away from the girl," Maddox ordered. Marcus shielded Olivia with his body. "No," Marcus said. Maddox's smile widened. "Then this ends exactly how it was always meant to." The sniper's lasers tightened, ready, steady, waiting for the command. And in that split second, before death, before decisions, before destiny, Olivia's hand found Marcus's sleeve. Her voice was barely a breath. "Don't let him win." Time fractured. The morning fog, the glinting red sniper dots, the cold slice of river air, all of it froze in place for a suspended heartbeat. Marcus felt Olivia's trembling fingers clutch his coat, a silent plea not born from fear, but from belief. She believed he could end this. And for the first time in his life, Marcus believed it too. Cole Maddox raised a hand, two fingers lifted, ready to drop, ready to kill. "Step aside," Maddox said, his voice steady, almost bored. "Let's finish what we started." Elias Ward didn't move. The silenced pistol in his hand remained perfectly aligned with Maddox's skull. "What you started," Elias corrected softly, "was a cover-up. What you're finishing is your own career." Maddox laughed, short, sharp, mirthless. "You think careers matter to a man like me? You think anything matters except survival?" "No," Elias said. "I think truth matters." Maddox scoffed. "Truth gets people killed." Marcus spoke then, voice low but devastatingly clear. "No, Maddox, lies do." The snipers shifted, their lasers tightening like a noose around Marcus and Elias both. Maddox began counting down. 3, Marcus whispered to Olivia. "Stay behind me, no matter what happens." She shook her head weakly, her voice breaking. "Marcus, don't." 2, Marcus stepped forward, drawing the tactical pouch from inside his coat. Maddox's eyes flicked down, then widened. The snipers adjusted again. 1, Marcus threw the pouch, not toward Maddox, but into the river. A blur of dark fabric and classified history arced through the fog and disappeared into the churning water with a distant splash. Maddox's scream tore across the pier, not of pain, but pure, feral rage. "No!" Time snapped back into motion. "Fire!" Maddox roared, but Elias was faster. He fired a single, perfectly aimed shot, not at Maddox, at the metal conduit above the pier, a rusted junction box humming with old voltage. Elias's bullet sparked against the box, ripping through its wiring. A burst of electricity cascaded through the metal guardrails, then into the pier. The snipers, positioned on the old rusted marina roofs, yelled in surprise as their equipment crackled with static. Their rifles flickered, optics malfunctioning, red dots scattering wildly. Marcus tackled Olivia behind stacked cargo crates just as gunfire erupted, wild, erratic, uncontrolled. Bullets tore through wooden planks and metal siding, sparks flying everywhere. Maddox dove behind his SUV, firing blindly toward Elias's position. Elias returned fire only once more, just enough to disrupt, mislead, confuse. "Marcus!" Elias shouted. "Get her out!" Marcus grabbed Olivia's arm, pulling her toward the lower dock stairs, but Olivia resisted. "No, Marcus, listen. We don't have time," he snapped. She forced him to look at her. Her pupils were still dilated from fear, but beneath it burned something sharper. "I copied the file," she whispered. Marcus froze. "What?" "On the flash drive, from your safe. The evidence you thought only you had. I duplicated the metadata. It's already encrypted and stored." Marcus stared at her, as if seeing her for the first time. Not fragile, not broken, but deadly brave. "Where?" he asked. Olivia held his gaze. "Somewhere they'll never find before we decide to release it." A bullet cracked overhead. They ducked. Marcus exhaled, a strange mixture of pride and terror filling his lungs. She had outsmarted the most dangerous man he'd ever known. "Good girl," he whispered, voice trembling. Behind them, a scream. Not Olivia's, not Marcus's, Maddox's. Marcus turned in time to see Maddox lunge toward Elias, gun raised. Elias dove aside, but Maddox's shot grazed his arm. The spray of crimson stark against Elias's sweater. "That's enough!" Marcus roared, emerging from cover. He stepped into the open. Cold wind ripped at his coat. Debris swirled around him like the aftermath of a fallen world. Maddox turned, their eyes locked. Two men, two histories, two sins intertwined by one operation. "You destroyed everything," Maddox spat. "Nope," Marcus said. "I'm ending it." He charged. Maddox fired. The bullet missed. Elias tackled Maddox from the side, knocking his aim off. Maddox fought viciously, elbowing Elias, slamming the butt of his weapon into Elias's jaw, sending him sprawling. Marcus reached them. He struck Maddox hard, once across the face, once in the ribs, each blow years of guilt and buried rage unleashed at last. Maddox fell to his knees. "You think this changes anything?" Maddox hissed, blood pooling at his lip. "You think the truth saves anyone?" Marcus grabbed Maddox by the collar, hauling him up. "No," Marcus said. "It saves her." He drove his fist into Maddox's temple. Maddox crumpled, unconscious. Sirens wailed in the distance. Whitaker's units, no doubt alerted by Elias's silent distress signal. Marcus turned to Olivia, who leaned against the pier railing, exhausted but alive. He rushed to her side, lifting her gently. "It's over," he whispered, but she shook her head. "No, Marcus," she said softly, "it's just beginning." He looked into her eyes, those eyes that always saw too much, and he understood. Bringing Maddox down was only the first step. Exposing Ember, protecting Olivia, facing hearings, facing consequences, facing themselves. None of it would be clean. None of it would be easy. But she was alive, and he would walk through fire for her. As the sirens drew close, Marcus wrapped his arms around her, feeling her shiver, feeling her breath against his collarbone. She whispered, barely audible, "You didn't choose duty this time." He pressed his forehead against hers. "No," he said, "I chose you." The fog rolled in again, swallowing the pier, the river, the ruin behind them. Two broken souls standing at the edge of a truth that nearly destroyed them, but together and alive.